Welcome in on a Wednesday, 3304 daily. Good to have you aboard on a gorgeous day here in the New River Valley. Walking outside this morning, uh, I didn't look at my phone. I was pretty tired, just wanted to get to my bus, get to class and stuff. But I walked outside and I had prepared for it to be cold because we had had bad weather the last couple of days. And I walked outside in my puffy coat and I was like, oh man, it's warm. Like I felt warm outside. I got out of my class at around 11 and I was, again, walking outside. Beautiful sunny day. And yeah, it was like legitimately, hot with all the layers I was wearing. Low to mid 40s, sun making it feel like mid 50s. Feels great out there. So definitely get out and enjoy that. But we appreciate you listening to us as well. Dan Steinbach, Ryan Wilkes in our producer's chair. We're joined by Brian Kearney and Colbjorn Bergstrom here on this Wednesday. Let's do a quick touch up on the women's basketball victory last night for Tech. Brian Kearney was on the call. Brian, I want to welcome you in. And what did you think about last night's game?
Yeah, it was a pretty good game overall. Tech definitely had a better second half than they did the first half. Clemson came out and was really good on defense. They're one of the worst defensive teams in the ACC, but they were actually able to shut Elizabeth Kitley down. I'm not even sure she got any points yesterday. She certainly didn't, at least through the first half, and because every time she got the ball, they just double teamed her and just shut her down completely. So other players had to step up, and I'm sure that was their plan, was trying to make the everyone other than Elizabeth Kitley just show up, and they did. And Asia Asia Shepherd and Azena Baines both had big games, and they were able to pull through in that second half and just absolutely dominated Clemson overall. And yeah, with the issue though there for Clemson, definitely showing their record, couldn't shoot in the fourth quarter, only made two baskets, shot something like 15%. So you're not going to win any games like that. So Tech definitely got some help, but their offense showed up in the second half and they got a good win. And on Thursday, they're playing in Georgia Tech, I believe, which is going to be a big ranked matchup for them.
That's at home, correct?
Yes, yes.
All right, yeah, they're in the middle of a home stretch right now. Yeah, Elizabeth Kitley, a very uncharacteristic 2 points, but like you said, other players showed up. Shepherd with 23, Baines with 20, and then Georgia Moore with 14. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that Georgia Tech matchup. Add a potential ranked win to their resume. As we've been talking about them, going towards March, they're a team that's more firmly in the tournament as compared to the men's side. So at this point, it just comes down to, hey, win some games down the stretch, and maybe we're talking about hosting a first round weekend. That'd be fun. But that's all in the future. So again, good win for the women last night, and we have the highlights from that call coming up later in the show. Jam-packed show today. We want to start off with a little bit of fun talking about some Olympics later on, maybe in about 7 minutes or so. We're going to get into, I'm very excited about this, Andy Bitter of The Athletic. Obviously covers Tech football, and he put out a fan survey, just a little Google form. I'm going to go through that, just about what people are feeling about the Virginia Tech football program right now, and specifically looking forward to next season. The Brent Pry hire, some highlights of some players, very exciting stuff. At the top of the hour at 2 o'clock, after we go from break, Colbjorn Bergstrom has some prop bets for us for the Super Bowl. Very excited for that. And then after that, we might get into a little bit more of a Super Bowl discussion because of who we have on the show today. We do not have a show on Friday, so we're going to get the predictions here from those guys. And then if time allows, at the very end, Stephen A. Smith, he opened his mouth a little bit, and JJ Redick went on First Take today and kind of called him out. So I wanted to get into that if possible. If not, you can come back tomorrow. We'll definitely have it for the show. So let's open it up with a little bit of fun. I'm trying to be as high energy as I can because I'm running on 4 hours of sleep today. But let's talk a little bit about some Olympics, if you're watching them at all. Because, look, I have never been the biggest Olympics person, but from the lack of discussion I've been seeing about it to just the fact that I have not been watching these games, it goes back to our discussion about the Pro Bowl and All-Star games and the fact that it just seems that they have become events that aren't as big as they used to be. And I feel like the Olympics just kind of falls into that category for me personally. What are you guys' opinions on the Olympics? Are you watching them? Have you ever been an Olympics person? I'm not one of those people that can show up and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go watch Norway versus Iceland curling. But, even just yesterday, I think Shaun White had a half pipe that he did. And that's usually a pretty big, ratings, boost for the Olympics. Is like, when these big time American athletes like Shaun White are participating. And I didn't know that he was doing it yesterday, and I was not able to watch. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this as we start off on a Wednesday. Let's start off with Ryan. They'll go to the guys behind the glass.
Yeah, I haven't really been tuning in. I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not, tuning in because it is a very exciting time of the year. But time allowing, I haven't been able to. But I have been seeing some of the stuff on Twitter. I saw a picture of one of the courses the other day. I'm sure you guys have seen this picture. It's like a 90-degree slope almost, and it's just some of the stuff they do is just crazy. And I'm not super akin to the scoring and how they keep up with how they grade them and all this kind of stuff. But it is something I want to start watching a little bit more because it is pretty extreme, right? I mean, I saw something on Twitter the other day that the difference between the winter and summer Olympics is so extreme because obviously the winter sports are more, you know, high level, more dangerous, and get to the summer Olympics, swimming, basketball, all this kind of stuff is so different. And I kind of want to get into it a little bit, but I haven't had that much time, but something I want to sit down and try and get into pretty soon.
I think one thing that might be a problem is just the scheduling because a lot of these events are the live streaming is an impossibility. The fact that these games, the last three Olympics have taken place in Korea, in Japan, and now in China. So these are all events that are on the other side of the world. So when it comes to, like, let's say you wanted to watch the USA men's basketball team, play in their games and their rounds in the Summer Olympics back in just last year. You'd have to wake up really early in the morning. You'd have to figure out the schedule of the rounds they were playing. I think that the accessibility of it is something that really hurts it because not everyone has Peacock, which is where a lot of these live streaming events are happening. It's not on primetime NBC. The ones that are being played on primetime NBC are usually just replays. I think when that's the factor, like for me, I think 2010 Vancouver was a Olympic Games that I watched a little bit more, and I was a little bit younger, so I was kind of just like, okay, what's that? Whatever's on TV, whatever my parents are watching. But now, I really feel like having the conscious choice. I just have not been tuning in. Let's go to the guys behind the glass, and we're also joined by Julian Ferdman here today.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm a huge fan of the Olympics. I always have been. My family and I, that's always been something that we've watched, and it's something that I love. It probably stems that I'm also a track and field guy and a cross country guy, so that's kind of the pinnacle of that group of that sport. So especially with the Summer Olympics, so I've always been a huge fan. I always try and go out of my way to make sure I can watch it because my family has cable. You can actually go online and watch pretty much everything. You have access to almost every sport. While, like you said, you can't really watch a whole lot of them live because they're it when we're all asleep. But I like to try and go back and do that. This Olympics is actually kind of a bad example for me because usually we haven't had a Winter Olympics since I've been in college, and so I'm so busy during the week, things like that, which I'm sure everybody else is, that and the timing is so bad that I haven't really been able to watch much of it. But overall, I think it's a very exciting thing to watch. And so especially when you get those big American people going, that I think it could be a big event for America in general. So it's just fun to watch overall. But yeah.
So you are one of those people that is able to uh, understand and appreciate some of the lesser known sports, the Olympic sports, as they're called. Um, there are people in my family that like it too. Like when the Summer Olympics are on, I don't know why. I go over to my grandparents' house and my grandma is flipping between women's handball and men's rowing, and more power to her. That's just not something I'm able to do. Julian, you're our co-host for the day. What do you think?
Yeah, I do remember the Sochi Olympics pretty well. I'm a pretty big Olympic hockey guy. I always find the drama entertaining. Obviously, with Canada, the U.S. and Russia like being heavily involved. I always find it fun, and I think Canada for like the past, I don't know, generation, really they've dominated the hockey. So that's really my main draw. Obviously, Sean White was competing last night, and I think he got the silver medal last night. I think. Um,
From what I
Forget
saw,
what.
I don't even know if the medal round happened. I just saw that in his half pipe he qualified or made it to the finals.
Those are the qualifiers. I'm so sorry. Yeah. But no, I think there's definitely if the time zones, if time conflict, I think there would be a lot more enthusiasm in the US about the Olympic sports right now. It's just hard because, unless you have a very weird sleep schedule, you're not really going to be able to watch the games and survive the next morning. So
Yeah, I think the way they're marketing them has been somewhat of a disappointment. All right, Colburn, you'll get last word on this, and then we'll move into some tech football discussion.
I'm very much someone like I don't watch the Olympics too much, but when I do watch it, I try to watch kind of like what I'm interested in, if you get what I mean. I what might take you for a surprise, I kind of rarely watch Olympic soccer. But granted, that is because those teams are kind of like more your C teams for most nations, unless it's the women's side. Women's side, I would probably try to catch every now and then. I'm really more of a swim guy. I grew up playing soccer and swimming. Plus, obviously, the U.S. has been incredible with it for years now. Likes of Phelps and Lochte, and I'm forgetting names, but there's so many incredible women on our team. Like, it's phenomenal to watch them every year. It's part of the reason I feel bad for that. But beyond that, I'm not huge on it. I mean, as a kid, really most of the stuff I knew about the Olympics was because of those Mario and Sonic Olympic games for the Wii. So um, I've never been too big of a proponent for like sitting down and watching it. But I mean, hey, if swim's on or something that I find really interesting, I'll take a peek.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's a good place to curb discussion. And if you guys listening at home are watchers of the Olympics, tell us what your favorite events are and how you manage. 540-216-2231 is the daily phone number as well as the YouTube live chat. All right, let's shift gears here. Talk a little bit of tech football all the way over here in February. It's always fun to speculate, right? So Andy Bitter of the Athletic, does good work covering tech football. He came out with a fan survey, really just trying to gauge where the fan base is with certain questions. With the Brent Pry hire, with the state of the program overall, with focusing on some players that we might be excited about. So I wanted to give you guys the test here today. I want to give you the survey, and let's just start out here. Very, very simple. 1 through 5, 1 being poor, 5 being excellent. How would you rate the Brent Pry hire? Now that's a pretty loaded question, pretty early, but I'm going to say I went with a 4. Early on, he's getting a lot of positive buzz from the fan base. The recruiting, the promises there with what he was able to do at Penn State. The thing that's keeping it from being a 5 for me is obviously that we have not seen him be a head coach ever before. We don't know what he's going to be like being a full-on game manager. What is he going to do in the in-game situations? And the recruiting upside is there, but we haven't seen that be fully delivered yet. So I'm going with a 4. Does anyone else have any opinions on that one?
Yeah, I'll start. I agree with you. 4 is obviously um, a good answer there. I think what's holding it back from 5 is obviously we haven't seen it on the field, but I think the hiring of Tyler Bowen really helps the offensive side, which Pry, never really had a hand in at Penn State as a defensive coordinator. But something that I point to when talking about Brent Pry, the reaction from the Penn State fans when Brent Pry was hired at Virginia Tech, especially on social media, was all Brent will miss you. It's such a shame that you're leaving. I feel like that was pretty unanimous when it came to that. And you don't usually see that. You usually see, some pushback like, "Oh, we're glad you're leaving. We'll be better without you." Stuff like that from fans that might be, either they don't like him or they're really mad about him leaving. Um, but you didn't see any of that with Brent Pry. All the Penn State fans wish him the best. They kind of saw this coming. They saw at some point Brent Pry was going to get a head coaching job. And to me, that's a very good sign because I feel like that's very rare, especially in Power Five programs where it's essentially unanimous in the fan base that uh, they're all happy for him and they're all happy but sad at the same time that he's leaving their program. So that was a very positive thing for me. And I think the staff he's surrounded himself with is really, really solid. He gets a lot of guys that know the state of Virginia, kept some Virginia Tech guys on staff with J.C. Price. I think that's a very positive thing. And it's yet to be seen what the product will be on the field. I don't know if we'll have a true gauge of what Brent Pry brings to Virginia Tech until maybe a year or two down the road, because this year kind of a segue year, a lot of transfers coming in to kind of boost the program, and we'll see what happens there. But I think it's a really, really solid hire, and I think Virginia Tech fans are going to be very pleased with what they see on the field.
All right, Julian, Colby, and Brian, just head nods or something like that. Do you guys have any objections to the rating being 4? I've got a lot of questions, so I want to be a little thorough here.
Yeah, I'm at a strong 4 for him. I'm very impressed with the staff he's built out. I think the Joe Rudolph hire for offensive line is massive, right? When you talk about where games are won in football, it's at the line of scrimmage, and emphasizing that. I think the staff's gonna really emphasize trench warfare. Just guys getting after it up front. So I'm definitely happy about that.
All right, Brian, Colbjorn, any disagreements? Anything crazy here?
I don't know if I'd say it's crazy, but I'm a little bit of an optimist when it's come to the football team. I'm personally saying that it's a 5 for everything, particularly because one of the goals for not only the fan base but for the team is to recruit in state, and they have been heavily focusing on that. And not only the hires around, like basically everything that Ryan said, I 100% agree with. The hires around him have been perfect, and it feels like this is a guy that's going to be very invested in the program. So this just feels like a natural segue hire. Whether it works out or not, I think it is the perfect hire for what Virginia Tech needed.
Yeah, again, the only thing holding it back, and this is a loaded question this early, but the rating on this question will change eventually. Whether it goes up, whether it goes down. But I think right now, it's more good than not. All right, let's move on here. So the next question is, how would you rate the state of the program that Pry is inheriting? And I went, and again, 1 being poor, 5 being excellent. I went with the 2. I think the recruiting in state was not good. Winning solves everything, but when you're losing, you at least want to be associating with fans, resonating with them on some level. And there just wasn't a lot of that. I really held back from just saying, oh, this is 1, because 1 is like your bottom tier Power 5 programs. Like, they have decent facilities. They're putting more money into it. The Hokie Club just reached 25,000. They completed the drive for 25. So there is support here. There is a foundation here that is being built. This isn't, and this isn't like, I'm going to take a shot here. This isn't Kansas. This isn't a Power 5 program that doesn't take football somewhat seriously. This is a, yeah, I know you're giving me a thumbs down, Colby, but I'd be like, seriously, like, at base level, the state of relationships is not that great, but there is a foundation that can be built upon. And I think that is just where the state is. So does anyone have any objections to this being a 2 for state of the program?
No, I'm with you. I think the state of the program has maybe moved to 2.5 since Brent Pry came in. I think a lot of relationships are being reestablished in Virginia that maybe took a back seat in the Fuente era simply because the focus was, for some reason, in Texas. So I think it's slowly but surely building back up. It's going to take some time. It's not like Brent Pry can make one visit to all these Virginia high schools and just immediately have that bridge built, because high school coaches are still, it seems like they're still kind of hurt from, the lack of attention their players got in Justin Fuente's time at Virginia Tech. So it's not just a one visit thing where you can just be like, hey, we're back. Just want to let you know, like, we're all good, right? Like, it's not that kind of thing. So, and I think Brent Pry's comments about, I think it was not going west of the Mississippi. So I think this staff is really going to try to build out from the state of Virginia. It all starts in Virginia, then you can branch out, because in Justin Fuente's time, it seemed like a lot of good talent was passed up in the state of Virginia. And I think Brent Pry's making it a priority. Obviously, they've had boots on the ground in multiple Virginia high schools, multiple areas of Virginia, trying to reestablish those relationships. So I think in his short tenure so far, he's made it a priority to reestablish some of these bridges, because it's hard to say they were completely burnt, but they were definitely damaged in the time of Justin Fuente. So we'll see how that develops, but it's certainly not just something you can just go and fix immediately.
All right, I got a lot of questions here. So just again, head nods, head shakes. Any disagreements with Ryan or I on where the state of the program is from the other three guys? All right, I'm looking good. Okay, let's move on here. So this next question is, what aspect of the football program is most important for Pride to fix? And we have 5 options here. We have fan relations, which we talked about. Those kind of got wrecked a little bit. We got recruiting, game management, so just him being a coach, not necessarily anything out off the field. Personnel hires, which, there have been a lot of grades that say that he's passed, Brent Pry has passed with flying colors. And then player development, obviously very important. I went with recruiting. I think that is where a lot of games are won. It's where you get your talent for building a solid roster that can compete to the highest level. I think that is where Tech has fallen behind in a lot of cases. And I think with an improvement there, I think you start to see better competition within the ACC. And then once you start competing heavily in the ACC, that means you can compete more nationwide as compared to what we've seen earlier. So of the other options, does anyone think that anything else that I mentioned is more important than recruiting? This is just like a personal opinion thing. I've been on mute for the last minute. Anyways, we are all on the same boat with the recruiting pitch. Meanwhile, now we are moving on to which new assistant coach are you most excited about? I went with Joe Rudolph, same with Julian. I think that the fact that you got an offensive line coach as good as he is from a place like Wisconsin that develops really good offensive linemen, that's really important. So I think of the hires and the fact that they made some, cheaper hires along the way to have him be the third highest paid assistant on this staff, the highest non-coordinator. I think that they're telling me that they are very serious about, getting better assistant coaches in here and especially developing somewhere along the offensive line. All right, anybody else wanted to shout out any of the other assistant coaches?
I have one. I like this is kind of a more low key one, but I really like Pearson Prelu as a safeties coach. I think that's a guy that has a lot of ties in the area, obviously has experience in the NFL, and he played at Virginia Tech. It's the full package. You got a guy that's, I think he had close to 10 years of experience in the NFL with multiple different teams. And that's just a guy that you want in the program. His son, I played against his son in high school. He goes to Radford, so right down the road. So staying in the area is really important to him. And he loves Virginia Tech. He's made it known that he loves Virginia Tech. And I think Brent Pry really gets it in terms of keeping guys that know the program and keeping guys that have been in the program, because as we saw with the last staff, bringing in a lot of guys that have never had any ties to Virginia Tech, it's just hard to grasp, what this area is all about. And I think they've got multiple guys on the staff that know what Virginia Tech is about. And I think Pearson Prelu is definitely one of them.
Definitely a good option there. All right. No disagreements from anyone else? All right. Now we are going into, this is ranking position groups that you feel, the best about and the most concerned about. Now, I don't think we should go 1 through 5. I think that would take a little bit too long. But between the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends, and the offensive line, between those groups, what would you say? Let's go with biggest concern. I think biggest concern. Let's just go to the most extreme. Biggest concern versus most confidence. I think for me, the biggest concern comes with the offensive line. But I also think that with the addition of Joe Rudolph, being able to coach them up, and an off season of new strength and conditioning work regimes, I think that the offensive line can see some improvement from what we saw last season. And then with the least concerning group, I went with tight ends. I think that they've got a nice room of a lot of quality players. They're bringing in Benji, the 4-star freshman. After that, the quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, I think there's just a lot of unfamiliarity there. So that was just what kept me from being overly confident versus overly concerned. With those three, though, you know that there's talent there. I think with the offensive line, you just look at the coaching, you look at what they did last year. there's got to have to be some improvement there. I think tight ends, though, for me, I think there's the most confidence in. Does anyone have any objections to, let's just go around the room. What would you say is the position group of those 5 on offense that you are most concerned with?
For me personally, I would say that running backs is the one I'm least concerned with, just because Malachi Thomas and Keyshawn King have been here. They have, Malachi was a freshman last year, but he had several dominant performances last year where he looked like he could be the running back of the future for this program. And then the position group I'm most concerned with is probably quarterbacks, just because, like you said before, Dan, there's a lot of uncertainty around this position. Obviously, Jason Brown has started games at South Carolina, and the Marshall transfer, I forget his name, but the
Grant
Marshall
Wells.
transfer, Grant Wells. He's a very intriguing player. Looks like he has some tools that could lead him to be successful, but we've never seen him play at this level before. So I'm very interested. And obviously, you have Taj Bullock as the wild card. We don't know what he's up to, but I think there's a lot of uncertainty at this position because of how important it is. I think it's vital that we get some improvement this summer, leading into the season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Brad Glenn works with that room. But I think the odds are, you mentioned the 3 names: Brown, Wells, Bullock. I think those are your 3 guys, and I think the odds are one of those hit.
Yeah, I like the quarterbacks. They're not my least concern, but they're not my most concerned. I think Wells. I think that the idea with bringing in both Brown and Wells was Brown wins a quarterback battle. You have him for a year, and then you have a quarterback battle. I think it's going to be a quarterback battle with all 3. But at the end of the day, I think Jason Brown wins that battle, and I think he gives the Hokies a year. Then you've got Grant Wells and Taj Bullock to duke it out for that starting position coming next year. And obviously, you cycle another freshman in and you keep that going. I think it was really important to get 2 quarterbacks in this cycle, one of which is a grad and one of which has multiple years left, because I think there's still room for development with Grant Wells. And I'd say, honestly, most concerned about the wide receivers. I really like Fontel Mines as a wide receiver coach, but it's a thin wide receiver room right now. I think the addition of Jaden Blue was a really, really good thing. I think he's going to do special things for Virginia Tech, and I think we're going to see Jaden Payute come into the spotlight a little bit. A lot of Hokie fans expected him to be one of the main guys last year, and he never really did that. Whether or not that was game plan with getting him the ball, whatnot, but losing Tavion Robinson and Trey Turner can't go unsaid. It's pretty massive losses right there. Your 2 most productive wide receivers, Trey Turner to the draft and Tavion Robinson to Kentucky, I believe. So that hurts, certainly. It hurts the depth of the wide receiver room. But you got guys like Caleb Smith coming back. I think he'll be a big piece to this team. And you've got Stephen Gosnell you got from UNC. I think that adds some depth, but I do think it's a thin room that they're going to have to build on. And I think they'll continue to do that in the offseason and hopefully have a decent wide receiver room coming in the season.
Oh yeah, no, it's sorry, but my computer's a little bit laggy here. Yeah, I think for me, I'm right there with Julian. Actually, I think I believe a couple of y'all here. The least concern for me is the running back room, particularly with how impressive Malachi Thomas was at the second half of the season. Just really, really good. And then on the other end, what I'm the most concerned about is the receiving room. It is specifically because Tavion Robinson and Trey Turner are gone. They were the 2 veterans of the position last season, and they have been like 2 of our biggest playmakers over the past couple seasons now. And losing 2 guys that are that dynamic and guys that I would argue could make at least practice squads, if not into NFL teams, is a huge loss. And it's going to be very, very important for those quarterbacks to have guys that they can rely on. Sure, we got some transfers. Sure, we got some really good young guys there. But we lost 2 receivers. I think everyone, not only at at Blacksburg, but around the ACC respected.
Yeah, and for reference, I did have wide receivers as my second most concerning group. All right, let's move on to the defense now. I want to try to get through these a little bit quicker because we're already at 2:00. I want to hit a break, and I obviously want to hit Colburn's prop bets. But defense, let's just go around. Let's just say, I think that there are multiple position groups here you can point to. Bitter labels: defensive tackles, defensive ends, linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties. Off of the top of your head, I went with the defensive interior. I went with the defensive tackles as the position group I would say I'm most concerned with. Let's just go around the room real quick. Throw out the name of what position group you think you're least confident in. Let's start with Julian.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think our biggest recruit in this class, Gunnar Givens, is going to play up front early just because of how big his frame is. So hopefully he gets after it this offseason. But yeah, I think that's my biggest concern with the defense heading into the fall.
Ryan, what about you?
I'm a little bit optimistic about the cornerbacks. I like the cornerbacks. I like DJ Harvey coming back. Dorian Strong obviously will still be here. So I like guys like that. And Chamari Connor, obviously you can't go without talking about Chamari Connor. So I like that group, but there is room for concern on that defensive line. Obviously losing Jordan Williams is big. I think him coming back would have added a lot of depth to that defensive line. But Josh Fuga will still be here. So yeah, I like that group.
Brian Colburn, any thoughts?
D-line's what I'm concerned with the most. So
Yeah, I'm right there with Colburn as well.
All right, so let's move on now from defensive positions. This one was more about Whit Babcock. How would you rate your confidence in the leadership of him? I think that a lot of us can go across the board, like 4s and 5s. I think that what he's been able to do with the Hokie Club and all the hires that he's made, the only thing that I think you can make the argument for of keeping him at a 4 over a 5 is maybe he kept Justin Fuente around too long. That might be it, but also, the buyout. Then again, they did negotiate that. So if that's what's keeping you back, but as of now, I think that you can have confidence that Whit Babcock made the right decision with this hire, even though it wasn't a splashy one. But you look at the resume, you look at everything else that he's done with the athletic department, the growing programs that Tech has here. I think it's safe to say that he's on the positive side of things. Now, obviously, football is very important. Football basically lifts all ships. So if this does not work out, Whit Babcock's future becomes an uncertainty at Tech. But as of now, I don't think we have any reason to doubt that. All right, let's keep it moving. How many regular season games? Let's just throw it out there. How many regular season games do you think Virginia Tech will win in 2022? I went with 6. I looked at the schedule. I think that games like Duke, Georgia Tech, I think UVA is, even in their best year, they can't beat Virginia Tech. So, I'm chalking that up as a win. Let's go with Wofford and Old Dominion. That's 5 right there. You steal another game in conference, or you take something like the game against West Virginia at home, and you got a game against Liberty too. I think 6-6 is a good floor. I think that this is definitely a team that can make a bowl game. It's a rebuilding year, but I don't think that this should be an expectation of, oh, this team is talentless and they should be expected to, go 3-9. I think that this is going to be a building year, and this is going to be a year for player development and, player recognition, talent evaluation. But I think 6-6 is a good floor. Does anyone have any strong opinions on the number? And you could throw out 4, 5, 6 through 11.
I'll go 7. I think Tech gets 7 games. I think it's a favorable schedule. I think you've got a lot of your tougher games at home and a lot of, really good atmosphere games that you can get recruits in on and, possibly sway them to come to Virginia Tech. So I think it's a very favorable schedule. 7-5 for me is probably the floor, honestly.
All right, so a little bit more optimistic there. Let's go to the guys behind the glass. Julian?
Yeah, I'm at 8-4, honestly. I think if we can get this quarterback room settled and Joe Rudolph coaches up the offensive line, I think Brent Pry has the defense handled very well, and I'm very optimistic heading into the season. I think that there'll just be a bump just because of the new coach. I think there'll be a lot of enthusiasm around the program this season.
All right, Brian Colburn, throw out your numbers.
Well, for me, I'm almost at that 7-8 line there with Julian, but the reason I'm thinking of it is more looking at the loss possibilities, where I think North Carolina, Pitt, and Miami are going to be very hard games. NC State's going to be one of the best teams in the ACC this year. And then beyond that, I think that most other games, like, you'll be able to compete in. There's a little bit of a toss-up with a couple others. maybe we'll be have a game stolen from Virginia, though hopefully not. So I'm more on that positive side in 7, particularly as Julian said, as the quarterbacks get going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right around optimistically. I think 8 is a very real number, but having watched this football team for the last 2 years or so, I'm definitely a little bit pessimistic. But I'm hoping with Brent Pry and everything else that he's bringing, I think there's a potential that they can definitely steal 8. But I think 6 is probably the floor.
I think it's a very workable schedule. I mean, it always is with the ACC, but there are some teams that are taking some steps up. NC State is going to be a challenge. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, one offensive player and one defensive player you are most excited about in 2022. You guys have been given a lot of analysis, but let's just throw out some names. Number one, the offensive side for me, it's got to be Malachi Thomas in a more featured role. I would pick a quarterback, but I don't know who's going to come out the winner in camp. And then defensive player, I'm going to go with Dorian Strong. I think that him in this role that he's going to have, he's going to be more of a featured player. And, we saw what he could do 2 years ago. Last season was a little bit of a slump. I think he bounces back big.
Yeah, I'm for offense. I got Jaden Blue. I think his resume. I mean, he has well over 150 catches in his career. I think he's accomplished a lot. So I'm very excited for him. I think he's going to be a featured weapon on the offense. And then defensively, I think Dax Hollifield. Brent Pry is a huge linebackers guy. Obviously, that was his main positions group that he coached at Penn State, along with being a defensive coordinator. I think we're going to see a huge leap from him this year. He's finally going to live up to his recruiting status as a prospect.
Let's go behind the glass. Ryan?
Yeah, I agree with you with Dorian Strong on Julian. I was gonna say Jaden Blue. I like him a lot. He's a 1,000-yard receiver at Temple 2 years ago, so he's obviously got that potential. And I think Virginia Tech will continue to unlock that with him, and he'll be a really dynamic weapon in this offense. And what again is a thin wide receiver room at the moment.
All right, Brian Kilburn. Any quick thoughts on players to look out for on the offense and defense?
I mean, for me personally, I'm kind of right there with you on the offensive and defensive players. The only guy that I would talk about, which I think that even you and I talked about, or actually I think was talked about on radio, was Grant Wells. Is kind of like the guy we've talked about possibly winning that quarterback job. And I think that he's very impressive coming from Marshall with so many years left on him. It'd be cool to see if he could win the job, how well he can do.
And yeah, I'm just throw out the names that have already been thrown out there: Malachi Thomas and Dax Hollifield. I think both have a lot. Obviously, we've seen a lot from Hollifield already, and I think we'll continue to see that. And then I'm really excited for what Malachi Thomas can do once he really gets to be in that starting role.
All right, we got 5 questions left, so let's try to go again a little bit rapid fire. We can hit a break, and then we can hit Colburn's prop bets. Simple yes or no. Let's not give too many reasons. Let's just go gut feeling. I know we're all fans here, but let's try to be. But honestly, question: Brent Pry will win an ACC title at Virginia Tech? Yes or no? I went with yes. I think that the state of the conference right now, I've got to see what Dabo does bringing back Clemson with all the coordinator losses, but I think that there's a opportunity for them here. I think that Brent Pry, he knows what he wants when it comes to a staff, and again, it's all about recruiting for me. If those recruiting numbers come up, they can compete in the Coastal. I really like what Mario Cristobal is doing with Miami, but I think it can get to a point where they are, contending to go to Charlotte every year, and with that, I have the feeling you're going to break through at some point. I think that Brent Pry will win an ACC title. Let's just go around. Let's go quick yes or no. Julian.
I got yes. Just worry about Miami, but yeah, I think we will.
Let's go with Ryan.
Yeah, I think Miami's the biggest threat, and it's hard to tell really what will happen yet. I'm going to go yes, but things could change.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm going yes as well. I think the ACC is definitely starting to become more of a toss-up, and I think as he gets going, I think he definitely will.
All right, and Colby, to round us out.
I'm not changing from any y'all's stuff. I'm right there with you. Yeah.
Even though, statistics might indicate that it's very hard for him, I think that there is definitely a pathway for it. All right, but now the question after that is, how long will it take for Virginia Tech to win the ACC again? So you're looking at this year, 23, 24, 25, or beyond that. So basically, do you think he can get an ACC title within his first recruiting cycle? I went with yes. I went with the very end. I went with 2025. I think that's a full recruiting cycle. You have a quarterback in there for a couple of years. You build up the offensive line. You draft. You recruit. Skill position players. You go heavy on defense, which is his bread and butter. You have these defenses that are akin to Penn State, which are top in the country. I think within a recruiting cycle by 2025, I think Virginia Tech in ACC title contention, and you could start to see them being a favorite for an ACC title. Anybody? Let's go around the room. Let's go earlier or later than 2025, or do you think it's smack right there? Let's go with Julian first.
Yeah, I'm at either 24 or 25. I think 24 would be really optimistic. If we really hit on one of these transfer quarterbacks, I think it's possible. But yeah, I'd say 2024 or 2025 would be the range.
I go quickly around the behind the glass. Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. I think earliest 2024, latest like 2027. I think in that range.
Move over to Brian Tierney.
Yeah, I'm right with you, Dan. I think early is 2025.
And Cole Brown 2, round us out.
Yeah, I would say with Ryan, that 2024 to 2027 range is, I think, when that first will get.
Okay, we've got 3 more here. Will Virginia Tech ever make the college football playoff as constructed with a 4-team field? I went with no. The reason being, not only is it going to take them too long to get back to that spot, but by the time they're there, the playoff's going to be expanded. So not in the current 4-team field, but an ACC title, berth. You're typically going to see those teams make the playoff, but not in the 4-team field. I think that by the time Virginia Tech's ready to be there, it's already expanded. I think that I'm seeing a lot of agreement from everyone else. So let's just move on. What other Power 5 program do you think Virginia Tech is most similar to? You guys might not have the answer in your head right away. That's kind of a thinker, but I did a little bit of research and I came up with 2. One I brought up was Washington. Washington is a program that is, the program in their state. They're the leading program. They're right around the same in terms of all-time wins. The only thing that Washington has that Virginia Tech doesn't when it comes to culture is they have the national success. They have 2 national titles. And on that front, I also drew a comp to West Virginia. I think that Tech and West Virginia, they're pretty similar programs, very similar in terms of all-time wins. They're right around there. And again, they're programs that found a lot of success in the mid to late aughts, but again, they just never have been able to get over that national championship hump. Another team that I think you could bring up is one that's neighboring them right in the all-time wins category. It's Michigan State. But again, in terms of the culture of the programs, Michigan State right now is in a really good position. But Michigan State in their own state, they're not the dominant power. That's Michigan, no matter how many times they beat them. But Michigan is that power program in the state of Michigan, whereas Virginia Tech is the program in the state of Virginia. Or the Commonwealth, I say. I apologize. I'm a Midwesterner. I don't know the terminology here.
Yeah, to go along, I'm at my 2 comparisons would be Oregon and Wisconsin. I think with Oregon, I think they're a bet they have more established momentum on the recruiting trail, but they've never had the national success just like Virginia Tech. I think they're a regional powerhouse, so I think and they have like a pretty consistent culture of like they love speed guys at Oregon. So that would be one comparison. The other would be Wisconsin. I think very similar, regional power. They know who they are. They have an established identity, right? They play big boy football. They like to run the ball. They like to beat you up. And they're a regional power as well. Those are my 2 comparisons.
I like both of those. I do. They're a little bit out of the box, but I think that you can definitely draw comps to them. I think the one thing for me with my 2 comps is that Washington playing in Seattle, a little bit of a bigger city environment. I think that's why I also lean a little bit more towards West Virginia because it's got that small Appalachia feel to it. Anyone else just want to throw out a name real quick if you have one, or else we can move on?
I think it's becoming Penn State East, just with the hires and how many people have came from Penn State with the support staff. So I think that's my easiest comparison. But there's a lot of different programs you could draw comparisons to.
Brian Colburn, any hot takes? Doesn't look like it. Maybe not. All right. Let's move on to our last question then real quick. If you could make one change to any facet of Virginia Tech football, what would it be? I know that's kind of a broad question, but I just went with the easy one. I went with the jerseys. I need those helmets. I need different uniforms. I need some all maroons. I need the TV logo that I'm wearing on my hat. I need that on a helmet. I need the matte maroon. I need neon orange jerseys. I need it all, man. I need whatever you can throw. Just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I want new unis. I know it's too early, but I mean, as a new staff, whatever Brent Pry wants, like he's going to be able to get. That's the power he has as the CEO of Virginia Tech football. So I went with uniforms. Is anyone in the same boat with me? Or when you hear any change about Virginia Tech football, literally anything, does anyone have any like out there suggestions?
I hate our uniform, so I'm with you. I want to make those Syracuse jerseys, the ones that we wore against Syracuse, want to make those more often. Maybe get a white one, an orange one, like they had back in the day. So
Throwbacks, yeah.
not a
I'm
big
with you.
fan. I think they messed up the shoulders a good bit, and it's just the numbers are tacky to me. So I'd like to change in the uniforms.
Yeah, Ryan and Dan, I'm with you guys. I love the throwbacks that we had against Cuse. If we stick with those, hopefully we win in them next time we wear them. Yeah, I'd love to change the uniforms as well.
I'm gonna say something that we've seen on Twitter every now and then from former players in the program, but it's just kind of like giving them a little bit more of a highlight. Now, granted, we have like that moment in like the first half or like at the end of the half and whatnot, where we'll have one of our all-time greats come out and they're like, "Let's go Hokies" and everything. But I want to see those players on the sideline. I want to see those players kind of like in and around that team. I want them to be going to practices. I want to see like whenever we can get some of those guys from past teams, I want them in every single one. I don't care how long they're at Virginia Tech. They're all part of our culture, and it's just kind of what makes this program special.
Brian, any strong opinions from you?
Not really. I think the uniforms is a good one. I think I actually don't mind them terribly, but I think with a new head coach coming in and trying to change the culture and everything like that, I think uniforms would be a good sign of that change.
I think so as well. All right. So thank you to Andy Bitter for giving us about 45 minutes of content right there. No, I think it was a really good survey on his part. So definitely go check it out at The Athletic. Yeah, I know it's a paywall, but do it. You know, The Athletic, they deserve it. And Andy Bitter does great work covering Tech football. So we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, at the end of the show, Colburn Bergstrom is going to give us some prop bets. And then with the three guys that are joining Ryan and I today, we're going to get their last thoughts before Super Bowl Sunday, as we do not have a show on Friday. So stick around. You're listening to 3304 Daily.
Hello and welcome into Castle Coliseum on this beautiful Tuesday evening. I am Colby Talley, joined by my partner Brian Kearney on behalf of 3304 Sports. We're watching some women's college basketball here tonight as Virginia Tech is set to host the Clemson Tigers. Being selected for the shots, and it's worked here as they have a 4-2 lead here in the first. Shepard with a three. Book it! She has the first 5 points for Virginia Tech, her first three of the night. And they take the lead by 4. But Amor keeps it in bounds. And what an amazing crossover from Georgia Amor. The cross-up on Ott and the score on the baseline. Virginia Tech now up by 3, their biggest lead of the day. Have not been good from 3. Kayana Traylor. She'll pass it to Shepard. Quick 3 from her in transition. Sinks it. She is 2 for 2 today from three-point range. 14-8 lead Virginia Tech. They sense the tides changing. Gaines for 3. She sinks it. Kiana Gaines, a 33% shooter from the perimeter on a low sample size. She'll cut the deficit down to 6, 27-21.
Shepard on the left wing. Kicks over to Amor at the top of the key, the 3. And she knocks it down for the 3. Hokies up 36-27 here early in the second half. Into Kitley, met by 2 Clemson players, falls over, pass to Baines, and an excellent play there for Baines and Kitley as she got the pass off and Baines got the nice layup. Now on the right wing, or the left wing, excuse me, Amor with a long 3 as the shot clock was going down, but gets that one to fall 10 meters out and gets it to fall there as they are now up 47-31. Looking to maybe make something happen here. 3 seconds, 2. Gets the layup off and in as she gets the buzzer beater on the layup for Asia Shepard as she keeps her big day going. And the Hokies are going to finish this third quarter out 54-35. That's Shepard's 20th point on the day. The Virginia Tech Hokies took this one 73-42. Good night from Blacksburg.
3304 Daily, good to have you on a Wednesday. All right, 10 minutes Last 10 minutes of the show, we're going to hand it over to Colbjorn Bergstrom. We've got a little bit of a Super Bowl look ahead, some prop bets for the Super Bowl, and we'll get some last-second opinions from the guys behind the glass, the three guys joining Ryan and I today. As we do not have a show on Friday, so before Sunday, they won't be able to give their opinions. We'll get their last thoughts. So here we go, Colbjorn, over to you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out to Matthew Berry here for this. He does a lot of the fantasy football stuff. He's the quote unquote fantasy football god there at ESPN. But then on top of that, he's very popular for his love and hate lists. So instead for this, it's not really love and hate. It's over under. And on top of that, I'm going to try to sprinkle in a little bit of FanDuel ones that I picked out myself to be able to go on. So without any further ado, I'm going to try to pick out some ones I think are interesting. The first one that I want to pick out here is T. Higgins over 5.5 receptions. Do you guys go over or under on that?
I'm gonna go over. I think that they won't be scared to throw Jalen Ramsey's way when he's shadowing Jamar Chase. But T. Higgins is a guy that just he really can be forgotten sometimes when people are talking about the Bengals receiver corps. I'm gonna go over. I like that. I think he could honestly have a bigger game than Jamar Chase. He had a bigger game yards wise against Kansas City, so I'm gonna go over.
Yeah, it's over as well, Dan. Like you said, I mean, the number one guy on the Rams is going to be on him, Jalen Ramsey. And yes, I know he's definitely beatable. And I think Jamar Chase will have some success, but Burrow is going to have to spread that ball around. And I think T. Higgins will be one of the main guys, in addition to Tyler Boyd, that will be getting the ball quite a bit. So I'd say over is a pretty easy bet there.
Yeah, I agree with both Dan and Ryan. Definitely, T. Higgins, he gets open really easily. He's a big guy. He's really fluid. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that bet, just considering the Bengals are going to have to throw the ball to win this ball game. So they're playing against an explosive offense. So I'm definitely with the over on that bet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you guys on the over. I don't know, Brian, you want to toss your thoughts as well?
No, I'm pretty much agree with you guys. I think they're going to definitely mix him in there, and like Ryan said, Joe Burrow's going to spread that ball around. So I take that all the way.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm right there with y'all on that over. We'll get actually back to T. Higgins here shortly with another interesting one, but I want to give a little bit of love to LA too. How about Cooper Kupp over 8.5 receptions or over under?
That's over to me. They feed him the ball like nobody's business. Although Odell has been getting some more catches, I mean, Cooper Kupp, he gets open every play. I'm going to go over on that. Only 8.5. I think he easily gets double digits.
Yeah, he's the guy, and I think they're definitely going to get him the ball quite a bit. He's been outstanding all year, and I don't see that changing in the Super Bowl.
Yep. So just play the hits, right? If you're a band, you just play the hits. You go with what's been working all year. I think Cooper Kupp is going to be able to get open like he has all season long. And Matt Stafford's going to deliver him the ball. So yeah, I'm there on the over as well. He might have double-digit catches in this game.
Yeah, same. I'm on the over. He was on my fantasy team, and I reaped the benefits of that all year. They go to him all the time. So definitely over.
Absolutely. I mean, he's been a star all year, so we're all agreeing on that as well on the over. To get right back here into T. Higgins, this is definitely my last big receiving one. This is apparently something on FanDuel, but I wasn't able to find it, but it's in Matthew Berry's article. T. Higgins to have more receiving yards than Jamar Chase.
Ooh, that's a good one. So basically a repeat of what we saw in Kansas City, where Chase got in the end zone, had that big play, but Higgins ended up with more yards. Ooh, I don't hate that. I think I'm going to lean Higgins because, I mean, again, I'm not saying that Chase will get completely eliminated by Jalen Ramsey, but I think T. Higgins just has a really good game of being that guy that they allowed to be in single coverage, and he feasts on him a little bit. So I'm gonna go with Higgins in terms of receiving yards. Chase has a nice game. He might catch a touchdown or two, but I think Higgins will have some bigger plays.
Yeah, if it's really kind of hard, this one is, because I think Jamar Chase has potential to really have a big game. I think, he could expose Jalen Ramsey, but at the same time, if Jalen Ramsey's on his A game, he came out with a quote saying he's ready for Jamar Chase, all this and that. So, guys can be all talk, but at the same time, if Jamar Chase is a non-factor, which I don't think he'll be a complete non-factor, but if he's taken out of the game in any capacity, I think T. Higgins could easily get more receiving yards there.
Yeah, I think I'm all over this one. Just because when you look at his matchup, because if you have Jalen Ramsey on one side, the Rams' other corner is Darius Williams, and that's just a physical mismatch to me. Darius Williams is 5'9", T. Higgins is 6'4", and he uses his size in his game very well. So I'd look for Joe Burrow to hit T. Higgins on those dig routes, on those vertical routes, to really get those yards up there. I like this bet a lot for Higgins.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably have to agree as well. I'd want to say that Chase might have a bigger game, but I think they're probably going to focus on Chase more, and that's going to leave Higgins for more single coverage, like Dan was saying, and I think that's going to probably get him more yards overall.
Yeah, certainly staying in unison. I'm definitely a big proponent of T. Higgins for this game. On top of that, to move into player rushing yards, I find it hard to really talk about the LA side, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Cincinnati side here. Over under Joe Mixon, 62.5 yards on the ground.
62. Oh, man. That's a tough one, but I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under on that. I think he can bust one or two, that are like decent, like 7-yard plus runs. But I mean, that Rams front, it's really, really good. And also, there's the possibility, really, that they're going to have to throw themselves back into this game. So, like we saw against Kansas City. So I'm going to go under on Mixon, 62.5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Especially when you look back at that NFC title game against the Niners, I thought the Rams were really good at the line of scrimmage. They really controlled the run game for the Niners, and the Niners are like one of the best running teams in football. I don't think this Bengals team has the same personnel, whether you talk about offensive line or tight ends, just these guys who can just block. And I don't think that their blocking is on the level of the Niners, and we saw what the Rams did to the Niners. So I'm on the under as well. I think that the Rams are going to control the line of scrimmage in this game. So,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think he easily could go over, but I think most of the focus is going to be through the air, getting those guys involved and let Joe Burrow. People say let Joe Burrow cook. I think that's essentially what they're going to let him do, and kind of try and test this Rams secondary and get the ball moving down the field because Joe Mixon's been struggling to get it going here and there on the ground. So I think that's going to be the game plan going in.
Yeah, I got nothing to add. Julian and Dan and Ryan all pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be in agreement that this game this coming week, this coming Sunday, is going to be very pass forward. Both sides are pretty good defensively for run stop, and then on top of that, I mean, Cam Akers is still coming back off big injury and whatnot. So yeah. How about moving into a little bit more diverse things? If you want to, you can toss out a couple names for this. There's one that Matthew Berry listed that I actually am in full agreement on. The first player to score in general. It can be a field goal. It can be a touchdown. It can be a safety.
Oh, man. First player to score. Let's go CJ Uzomah. I think that could be a fun one. A little bit of a long shot, but I'll go with that. Bengals get the ball first. They move down the field well. T. Higgins makes a couple big plays, and then they just leave Uzomah open. Oh, wait, actually, isn't he hurt? Or did he get cleared for the game?
Yeah, his sprained MCL.
Okay, well, then he's not playing. All right, so then that's a false bet.
He might be.
Who's their backup tight end? I don't know. Let's go Tyler Boyd.
I'm going to go Cooper Kupp. I think the Rams, it obviously depends on who's going to get the toss, but I think whichever team gets a toss, I think they're going to score first drive. That's my opinion. And I think if the Rams get the ball, they're going to move down the field and get it to Kupp in the red zone, and he's going to be the first one to score.
I like Odell Beckham. Just he's been able to showcase his talent, that he really is still that guy. So yeah, I like Odell Beckham as the first touchdown scorer in the Super Bowl.
I either got to go Kupp for the Rams or maybe on the Bengals, mixing it up here. Say Mixon they might be so focused on Higgins and Chase, the obvious choices for a touchdown. I think they get close to the end zone and then they push in with Mixon.
Yeah, I like those shouts. For me personally, on the offensive side for the Rams, I'd say Odell Beckham as well. I think he's going to have a big game. But then on the offensive side for the Bengals, I personally think it'd be Evan McPherson. He's been incredible throughout the playoffs, and that's why you draft a kicker. That's what Cincinnati's been preaching. So they're going to rely on him throughout the whole thing. And last up here would just be the 23.5 points scored combined in the first half. And on top of this, I guess we can also give score predictions as well to wrap up here.
Over under 23.5. Let's go over. Quickly, everyone.
I'm gonna say over as well.
Yep.
Over.
All right, there you have it. Let's X the score predictions from the three guys that are joining us today: Julian, Brian, Colby. Who are your Super Bowl champions?
Give me the Rams, baby. All over the Rams.
Yeah, Rams.
I'm going to go Bengals.
Brian's joining me. Bengals in a close one.
All right, thank you, Julian, Brian, and Colby, for joining us here today on 3304 Daily. We'll see you all tomorrow on a Thursday for last show of the week. Take care. Stay safe, everyone.